Hey guys, it's Amy here, and today I'm going to be doing my March wrap-up. So I read 9 books in March, and to prevent this video from being really long, I will just jump straight into them. The first book I read was The Mysterious Affair at Styles by Agatha Christie. This is the first book in the Hercule Poirot series, and I absolutely love Poirot. I really love Agatha Christie. Even though I've only started reading her books in the past year or so, I've actually really begun to like them, and they've given me that same kind of nostalgic, happy feeling as like Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings does. So that's really great, and I know when I pick up an Agatha Christie novel, I'm going to have a good story, and Hercule Poirot is one of the funniest characters. He's so witty and just so sassy, and it's just hilarious. So as you probably guess, with a murder mystery, there is a murder in this big house which is known as Styles, and Hercule Poirot comes in to investigate and solve the murder. This was a really quick read for me, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. So the next book I read this month was The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman, and I really enjoyed the story. I'm actually looking into reading the graphic novels if I can get my hands on them soon. This follows the story of a young boy whose family is murdered, and the murderer is actually out to get him too, but he manages to escape into a graveyard. The ghosts within that graveyard then decide to protect the young boy and give him the kind of full access to the graveyard and all the powers and stuff that is hidden within that. Neil Gaiman has a fantastic way of spinning a story and making you really love the characters. As with a lot of Neil Gaiman stories, there's that dark kind of comedic undertone to everything, and it was just really good. If you read Coraline and enjoyed it, I think you would definitely enjoy The Graveyard Book too. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read this month was The ABC Murders by Agatha Christie, which is the 13th book in the Hercule Poirot series. I found with these Agatha Christie books that you don't necessarily need to read them in order, but you can do if you want. All the books so far I've actually been downloading from my local library's ebook selection online, and so with the Agatha Christie novels I've just been picking the ones that have been available at the time and just reading them, because to me it doesn't really matter if I read them kind of out of order. So the ABC Murders is kind of self-explanatory. The murderer is murdering people starting with A in a town with this letter A, and then moving on to B and C and so on, and Hercule is trying to solve what's going on and why this person is doing it and who they could be. So again, I really enjoyed this novel. What I find with Agatha Christie is that you just have a bit of a safe bet. You know you're going to get a good book with a fun character and a resolution by the end. It's just really good. 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was The Princess Bride by William Goldman, and I absolutely love the film of this book. I watched it so many times when I was younger. My mum really loves the film, so it would always be on. If it was on like a Sunday afternoon, we'd be watching it. And for years I've actually had it on my Amazon wishlist, but I've never picked it up, and then I found it on my library's ebook collection, so I got it for free. So this book is a story within a story, and to begin to describe it I'm just going to get completely muddled, so I think either go and watch the film or read the book and you would understand. It's basically a really satirical romance adventure story following a young woman who's engaged to the prince of the realm and her childhood sweetheart who is out on a bit of a mission to save her from this prince. The one thing I absolutely love about this book is the characters. They are so brilliant, so well formed in each of their own special ways. There's a Spaniard, there's a giant, there's some crazy villainous people, and it's just really funny and really entertaining and a fantastic read. I highly recommend this one if you like a good adventure or a funny romance, and if you haven't seen the film or you haven't read the book, I suggest you do both. Another 4 out of 5 stars from me. The next book I do actually have a copy of, and it was Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. This is my personalised edition that Penguin sent me, which was really nice of them. I did a full review of this book earlier on in the month. If you want to see that video, I will link it down below. Basically a story of a young boy who has a secret relationship online with another boy from his school, but they keep their identities secret from each other. I liken this book to Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell and Will Grayson by David Leatherton and John Green. 2 equally amazing books by some amazing authors, and this book here is just a mashup of all the amazing bits of those books into one, I would say. 4 out of 5 stars for that one from me. The next book I read was The Ask and the Answer by Patrick Ness. This is the second book in the Chaos Walking trilogy, and part of my April plan is to finish off a few trilogies that I've already begun. So this book carries on straight where The Knife of Ever Letting Go finishes. I won't say too much about this one because I don't want to spoil you if you haven't read the first in the series, but basically this carries on in the world where everyone can hear the men's thoughts. The protagonist Todd is on a mission to find his love Viola, and chaos ensues as the trilogy's name suggests. I didn't enjoy this one quite as much as the first in the series, but I think it was just because it dragged on a little bit in places. Overall, I did really enjoy the plot, and by the end I was really gripped by what was happening and the kind of cliffhanger it was left on, so I'm quite excited to move on to Monsters of Men now. 4 out of 5 stars. So next this month I read Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare, which is the first book in the Infernal Devices trilogy. I kind of gave up with the Mortal Instruments series. I got to maybe the 3rd book and got a bit fed up with it, so I knew I didn't want to go out and buy the Infernal Devices series because I wasn't sure if I was actually going to enjoy it. Luckily, I looked on my library's ebook collection and they had all 3 books there, so I began obviously with Clockwork Angel and really enjoyed it. Clockwork Angel is set in London in the 1800s and it follows a young girl named Tessa. Tessa comes over from America to London thinking she is going to meet her brother, but in fact she gets taken by some warlocks, and these warlocks manage to bring out this like talent or like skill, this part of Tessa which she didn't know she had, which is the ability to change shape into different people. She then gets saved by the London Institute of Shadowhunters, and this is where she meets Will and Jen. As you may have guessed, a love triangle situation then ensues. I really enjoyed this book, and that really surprised me because I didn't expect to after not enjoying the Mortal Instruments, so I gave this novel 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read this month was comparatively short to the other books that I've read, and it was Hansel and Gretel by Neil Gaiman. This is a somewhat retelling of the Hansel and Gretel story by Neil Gaiman. It is also paired with some really lovely illustrations. I was not blown away by this book. In fact, I was a little bit disappointed. I don't know whether I thought because it was being rewritten by Neil Gaiman that it would be a little bit darker or a little bit more different, but it wasn't really, and I didn't really think it was that amazing. It was a very short read. In fact, it took me about 10 minutes to read just because most of the pages are these double page spreads of illustration, which is really nice, and I'm sure I will probably read this to my children maybe one day when they're old enough to have creepy kind of bedtime stories read to them, but I don't think I will personally be rereading this one anytime soon. 3 out of 5 stars for this one. And finally this month I read Clockwork Prince by Cassandra Clare, which is the 2nd book in the Infernal Devices trilogy. Again, I won't go too much into the story as you don't want to be spoiled if you haven't read the first one. All I would say is that the love triangle is still very much a triangle, and a lot of angsty kind of confused teenager feelings were going around, so that was interesting. I think what made that love triangle situation easier to read was actually I really enjoy all the characters, so it wasn't too much of a bore. I'm hoping to complete the series next month, so I will be able to give you my full opinions on the trilogy if you wish to see that. I gave 4 out of 5 stars to Clockwork Prince. Okay, so that's my wrap up for March. If you've read any of these books, then please let me know your opinions down below, or feel free to tell me the books that you read in March as well. As always, I will leave links to Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, everything down below. If you want to be my friend on Goodreads, that would be really cool. I hope you're all having a brilliant Easter, and I will see you soon. Bye! So today I have 4 books that I want to talk to you about, and all of them are in some way related to mental health.